to another edition of Influences Podcast. And we're here with Kiki LeFreak, who is an established force in Toronto's queer community and underground house scene. Since her start hosting the legendary queer party Juicy in 2003, she's built inclusive bouncing room across the city, animating many venues, launching legendary events, Sticky Fingers, Monster, most recently Shango, Hypnosis, and a Love Bazaar, and sharing the stage with industry greats, DJ Greg Wilson, Marcellus Pittman, Alton Miller, Eddie C, and many, many more. Oh, I want to mention Mark Farina as well. I just saw that. That's awesome. Kiki
Yeah, that was
LeFreak's, yeah. Kiki LeFreak's DJ sets take you on a joyful, uplifting journey, transcending space and time. Her musical style pays homage to the rich heritage of the Great Lakes region. She plays a wide range of genres: house, boogie, disco, electro, and new wave, drawing inspiration from cities like Toronto, Chicago, Detroit, plus New York City, Miami, and Baltimore. Kiki LeFreak brings her extensive musical knowledge and gift for reading any crowd to creating everlasting memories in Toronto and beyond. House music all night long. Say what? This is Kiki LeFreak. Welcome to Influences Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah. All right. So I love your DJ name, Kiki LeFreak. How did that DJ name come about?
It first started out as LeFreak Say Chic for that song LeFreak Say Chic.
Oh yeah.
And eventually everybody started calling me Kiki LeFreak. And side note, one of my friends that used to make all our flyers for our parties always complained at how long LeFreak Say Keek was to put on a flyer. And he wanted me to shorten it. And I was like, it'll somehow to shorten itself. And then one day I got a flyer for an event that I was doing that somebody booked me for. And there was my new DJ name, Kiki LeFreak.
Awesome.
So I just went for it and I stuck with that.
Let the people decide. I love it.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Absolutely. So you established yourself as a DJ in the queer community. How did that come about? Take us on that journey.
It was 2003. Three of my friends and myself, we decided to start throwing our own events. We weren't really finding what suited our needs in our queer community at that time. And so we pushed forward to start. There was like a bit of an exodus from Church Street to the west, the West End, and it started with parties before us. So we were following the suit of some of our peers. Like Vaseline with Will Monroe, and we had you had a Chow-Eaties on Sundays, had like a really big, huge dyke night. Lineups down the street. So we were just kind of following suit with that exodus. And we started a party called Juicy. First, it was off of Yonge Street, so it wasn't really completely in the West End yet. But then once we found our home and location, it started to be every month at the Elma Combo. And that party went on for about 3 years. Everybody that was involved in it went on to bigger and better things within the music industry. Viosa was in our group. Liam Skinner was in our group. They were both in big events. Yes, Y'all was Liam Skinner, and Viosa was in a bunch of bands. I'm trying to remember their names right now. I'll remember their bands. And we also had Sue Seto, but Sue pulled back and stuck with fashion. And that's about it for Juicy. And and Lady Fag was one of our dancers, and she has a massive party in New York City called Battle Hymn. And our first party had 500 people at it. So it launched our careers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was wild. Like it was just we had no idea it was going to be that busy. Yeah.
Oh, it just blew me away. Never mind. That's fantastic. As a woman in a male dominated industry, how tough was it to break in? What were some of the hurdles?
It's always difficult to break into any industry that's male dominated. I think we were kind of lucky with that first party having so many people at it. And we also had so much publicity and write-ups that getting bookings wasn't necessarily hard. But once people get used to you, then I started noticing that people wanted to book all the women DJs at once.
Yeah.
So to be like, oh, we're gonna throw this all-female party, we want you involved, or we're gonna book you, but it's gonna be an opening slot. There's always been a barrier to break past the standards that males have for each other and what the standards they hold us to,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think even really famous DJs still get that are female still get put in those positions. Like if you look at lineups, there's a bunch of famous male DJs and some famous female DJs. Their set times can still reflect the dominance of men in the industry. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I think those hurdles are always kind of there. And people always make comments like, oh, it's good timing because it's really popular to be a female DJ right now. Or, oh, it's a good timing because it's all the queers are so, just all these really weird microaggressions that you hear. But I'm never going to let that stop me. And I've always just done what I needed to do.
No, you totally do bring an electric energy. When I was at Groovin' in the Dark, it was just, I don't know, you just lit it up like completely. And I'm like, I gotta talk to this person because she's awesome. And I gotta see like where does that dynamicism come from? Where does all that energy come from when it comes to these parties? And yeah, I mean, one of my things that I'd like to do more in this show is get more women DJs on, just to hear about their stories and whatnot. So
For sure.
thanks for sharing that. You got a new party now, Shango. How did that come to be?
I was in retirement for a while. I just came out of retirement last year. So I was in
Well,
DJ retirement for 7 years. You're welcome. I'm very happy about being out of retirement.
I am too.
And then my friend Peter Croce, who's from Detroit, he's a DJ. He's on Rocksteady Disco. That's his label. He reached out to me and he said that he was going to be in town with Eddie C. And that was in March of this year.
Okay.
And I said, all right, let's do it. Let's throw a party. And I created Shango. And since then, I've had the opportunity to host VT Girl, D-Diggs. VT Girl's from Chicago. D-Diggs is from New York City. Eddie C, Peter Croce, and coming up, Gene Hunt.
Okay.
It's just, and every single one is sold out. And it's been intimate and magical. I absolutely love Shango. I used to rave a lot in the 90s, and that's totally how I fell in love with house music and disco. And Shango's like my little tiny baby. It's an ode to the 90s, but it's better.
All right. Well, I'm checking out that show, so I can't wait to see what that's all about.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that on.
For sure.
Out of the DJs who have shared the stage with you, who has stood out as being most memorable and why?
100% Mark Farina was a really big deal for me because I idolized him when I was in high school. I also saw him play at a ritual party. I'm trying to remember if it was 98 or 99. The recordings are on SoundCloud. You can find it. It was a 4-hour set at Power Bar. And to share the stage with him it was like a dream come true. But definitely number one was Greg Wilson. He was unreal. He brought literally, no pun intended, he brought reel to reels. And he played reels all night, blew all of our minds, played a bunch of original edits. He had everybody dancing and screaming and hooting and hollering. I think that was probably the most memorable.
I've seen reel to reel on YouTube like back in the 90s, and I just find that fascinating. How did he even do that in a club?
It's right. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
And they use it just like DJing. It blows my mind. I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess the blind leading the blind on that one. But,
Years and years of practice. I mean, it was pretty common back in the day. Like Twilight Zone in Toronto had a reel to reel in their booth. People just seems from those day and age, from back then, from that day and age, people seem to know how to do it.
That's incredible.
right?
Have you actually even heard Mark Farina talking about how he used to use cassettes when he used to DJ as well?
That's
So
so cool.
yeah, and yeah, like the things that these guys, these pioneers, used to do is just incredible to where we're at today. So,
True.
so in what way does your musical style pay homage to the Great Lakes region? Is what I want to know.
Well, I just say that because I feel like they don't talk about the Great Lakes region enough in house music. We always hear Chicago and Detroit, and you don't really hear enough about Toronto, but we are in the Great Lakes region, and it's where the birth of house music was. And you can even buy great records in Cleveland, and there's so many other little cities surrounding the Great Lakes area that have had their hand in the rave scene and in music production and whatnot. And I just feel like that's who I am. It's obvious I'm from the Great Lakes in the Midwest. When I travel, I know it because some of the songs I know, people are definitely like, "Oh, that's the Midwest shit."
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm really proud of that. I'm proud to be a part of that, and I'm proud to keep that heritage alive. And I'm definitely influenced by New York City. Larry Levan was a massive influence for me.
Also,
Um, I used to listen to DJ Sneak, obviously, in the 90s, and I didn't realize that his song was all Is It All Over My Face was originally from the late 70s or early 80s.
mm,
And when I found that out, I went down the Larry Levan rabbit hole. And I think I was like 16 years old, and I fell in love with post disco.
that's awesome. Yeah, he's quite influential for sure.
Yeah, he
In that New
is.
York scene. So, how long have you been producing your own music? Um,
Since 2007, 2008, I've only put out tracks on SoundCloud and not enough.
okay.
And I didn't dedicate enough time in the past to it, or gave myself I just didn't have enough confidence to release things, but that's all about to change. So I've been making music forever, just sitting on things, not finishing, or finished products and not putting it out. But that is all about to change. Since I came out of retirement, my main focus has been to DJ and to produce. And yeah, before you know it, there's going to be a lot of music out there by me.
All right, that's awesome. That actually leads into my next question, which is which do you prefer, DJing or producing?
Um, I think I like both, but I find production, it comes in ebbs and flows for me. I mean, you can do it every day, but there's moments of genius within it where magic happens and you can't control that magic. And I love that. But DJing just always seems to be magic. So
Awesome.
I could kind of lean a little towards DJing more, but we'll see what happens when I start releasing my own music and playing it.
I'll,
Maybe
I'll
it'll
come
just be
back.
a perfect combo.
I'll come back and ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, you talked about a lot of your influences when it comes to DJs, but I'm wondering if there's any other electronic music acts out there that have influenced you that may or may not be DJs.
Um, that's a good question. That is a really good question. It's really hard for me to say anything like in particular. I've listened to lots of Aphex Twin when I was young. I've listened to lots of Outkast, lots of hip hop, lots of sample based music. So anything from soundtracks to weird B-sides on rock albums.
Yeah. So kind of like Kid
I
Cold type of stuff, right? Like I know that he blends a number of different genres of music together, and that's
I
kind
think,
of
yeah, that's kind of like what I like in general. It's too hard for me to pick one thing as an influence. I definitely, my biggest influence is the traditions of street dancing and house music and all that stuff being passed along. To like put it into one little, like a couple little electronic bands would be really hard. I guess Daft Punk.
ah
That changed
yeah,
my life.
I got
That
it
changed
right
my life.
there.
1995, that changed my life. I still listen to that record. Yeah.
Homework. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that record. Oh,
Yeah, I'd have to say that.
Good.
Yeah.
I love Daft Punk too. It's oh, like that record right there just changed my life.
Yeah, it changed everything. It changed the whole scene.
Absolutely. Um, so my final question is, how do you feel you have influenced electronic music?
Um, I mean, I would like to say that I have, but I think I'm just carrying the torch and I'm just passing along the traditions to the next generation and trying to keep that torch alive and trying to keep that tradition alive of the type of music that I love and the history and the knowledge.
Because what
And
I
I think,
find
what
Sorry,
am
I didn't mean to cut you off there, but what I find about you is, your journey about retiring for so many years and then coming back and loving that music so much that you just gone back out there to play, to put out your own parties is something that's quite influential in itself.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to call yourself an influencer, because I just try to be humble and stuff. But I know I'm leaving my mark. I'm leaving my mark by spreading love and joy and taking people on beautiful journeys and reminding them how much freedom and love and joy there is within a space that has house and disco music playing. Yeah.
Kiki LeFreak, thank you very much for being on Influences podcast. Folks, check her out. She's awesome. Plays upbeat tempo, and you just want to get out on the floor and do your thing. Thanks again for being on Influences podcast.
Thanks, Jason. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
You have been watching and listening to Influences Podcast. Influences Podcast is written, produced, and hosted by yours truly, Jason Harischuk. Also produced by Angela Churchill, aka Purple Sapphire. My social media consultant is Christina Laukinen, also known as My Girl Tuesday. Check out Influences Podcast on Instagram and TikTok at influences_podcast. That's influences_podcast. Thanks for watching and listening.